6:45. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The news edited by Danushka Madhavala, read by Soundithavam. More than 14,000 people belonging to 3,935 families in 10 districts affected due to the adverse weather conditions. The Postal Service declared an essential service. A joint proposal regarding the removal of office bearers of Sri Lanka cricket is set to be debated in Parliament today. The USDFC commits $500 million to port infrastructure in Colombo. 6 renewable energy projects to add over 1,000 megawatts to the national grid in the next 3 years. In foreign news, Hezbollah warns of regional war if Gaza bombing goes on. And in sports, the ICC World Cup match between Sri Lanka and New Zealand will be played in Bengaluru today. The Disaster Management Centre says that more than 14,000 people belonging to 3,935 families in 10 districts were affected due to the adverse weather conditions. Heavy rainfall was reported in many parts of the island. The Department of Irrigation has issued an extension of the amber flood warnings for the river basin of the Nilvala Ganga for an additional 24 hours. This decision has been made due to the prevailing adverse weather conditions in the region. While issuing the flood warning, the Irrigation Director Hydrology SPC Shugishwara said people and motorists are requested to pay high attention to these warnings. Disaster management authorities too are requested to take adequate precautions in this regard. The Natural Hazards Early Warning Centre has issued a warning of severe lightning in several provinces. According to the warning, thundershowers accompanied by severe lightning are likely to occur at several places in the western, central, Sabargama, Uva and northwestern provinces, also in Galle, Matara and the Mannar districts. It also stated that where there may be temporary localized strong winds during thundershowers, the general public is expected to take adequate precautions to minimize damage caused by lightning. The government has issued an extraordinary Gazette notification declaring the Postal Service as an essential service. The Transport, Highways and Mass Media Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena said that the relevant Gazette notification was signed by him yesterday morning. The minister said that he took this decision to provide a continuous service to the people. The minister added that the Postal Department employees should deviate from political agenda to provide a better service to the public. He said that the government was taking all steps to provide public service without any interruption. Quote, "We are working in compliance with rules and regulations and the constitution of the country," unquote, he said. The minister said that this step was taken based on the request received in this regard. He said that the trade union action launched by the postal employees does not have any basis. A joint proposal regarding the removal of office bearers of Sri Lanka cricket is set to be debated in Parliament today. The Chief Government Whip, Minister Prasanna Ranatunga, said that accordingly the relevant joint proposal is set to be debated in Parliament today and subsequently put for voting in the evening. The decision was reached at a party leaders' meeting held to discuss the recent concerns surrounding the SLC. This news broadcast comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
People's Bank Excelsior. Live the life you want.
The U.S. International Development Finance Corporation yesterday announced that it has committed more than $500 million to support the development of a deep-water shipping container terminal in the port of Colombo, Sri Lanka, that will provide a critical infrastructure for the South Asian region. The new terminal reflects the DFC's commitment to financing high-quality infrastructure that supports its partners' development needs, invests in local communities, and is respectful of local financial conditions. The investment further demonstrates the United States' enduring commitment to Sri Lanka's economic growth and its regional economic integration, including with India, the U.S. Embassy said in a statement. The Minister of Power and Energy, Kanchana Wijesekar, has reviewed the progress of 6 large-scale renewable energy projects at the Ministry of Power and Energy recently. Accordingly, the minister has instructed the officials of the ministry, the Ceylon Electricity Board and the Sustainable Energy Authority to expedite the evaluation, approval process and the power purchase agreements and to have them ready by the end of the month, subject to environment and land clearance approvals. Meanwhile, the CEB had recently called for expressions of interest for the construction of 2 100-megawatt floating solar power plants on the Sinhala reservoir. That concludes local news.
People's Bank Excelsior, a comprehensive banking services package with a branded checkbook as well as debit and credit card exclusively for you. People's Bank Excelsior, for professionals who dare to dream.
The main news story is brought to you by Sinhala.
The Consulate General of Sri Lanka in Milan hosted the first ever Sri Lanka Festival in Milan at Parco Sempione, Milan recently. This was held under the patronage of the Municipal Council of Milan and in collaboration with the Sri Lanka Tourism Promotion Bureau. The event was a celebration of Sri Lankan heritage and culture. In the heart of Milan, the festival welcomed a large number of visitors, including tour operators, media, professionals and the general public, both Italians as well as Sri Lankan expatriates. At the core of the Sri Lankan festival was the mission to bridge cultures, promote the country among wider Italian community, and create a platform for what the country has to offer the world. The festival shared the unique beauty and diversity of Sri Lanka with the visitors on a platter that offered an assortment of colours, sounds and flavours, offering a glimpse into the rich Sri Lankan culture and heritage. That was the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Sinhala.
Moving on to Watchlight, the Urban Development and Housing Minister Prasanna Ranatunga has instructed the Urban Development Authority to hand over the Vihara Mahadevi Park to the Colombo Municipal Council. The Urban Development Authority has the ability to take over any property for development purposes. That is according to Section 50 of the Urban Development Authority Act, and came to you in Watchlight. In world news headlines this morning, Hezbollah warns of regional war if Gaza bombing goes on. Australia indefinite detention unlawful, the High Court rules. And Putin holds talks with China's top uniformed officer. The second-in-command of Hezbollah, the powerful Iranian-backed militia in Lebanon, has said Israel's killing of civilians in Gaza risks wider war in the Middle East. Sheikh Naim Qasim told the BBC that very serious and dangerous developments could occur in the region and no one would be able to stop the repercussions. Hezbollah's deputy leader was speaking at an interview in Beirut as the Hamas-run health ministry in Gaza said more than 10,000 people had been killed there. Israel's assault follows Hamas's attacks on the 7th of October, which killed 1,400 people, 1,000 of them civilians. The second-in-command of Hezbollah insisted any escalation would be linked to Israel's actions. Every possibility has a response, he said. Australia's top court has ruled that the government's power to hold a person indefinitely in immigration detention is unlawful. The landmark ruling overturns a 20-year-old precedent that has shaped Australia's border policies. It could trigger the release of 92 people in immigration detention who cannot return to their home countries, the government says. The Solicitor General warned it would prompt a wave of compensation claims. The case, heard before the High Court of Australia on Wednesday, involved a stateless Rohingya man known by the pseudonym NZYQ, who faced the prospect of lifelong detention because no country would resettle him due to a criminal conviction for sexual child offences. The government had argued that his detention was unlawful as they intended to remove him from the country despite their inability to do so. Russian President Vladimir Putin has held talks with China's top uniformed officer. Putin stressed his country's stance to strengthen military cooperation with China to counter the United States, which he accused of fueling tension in the Asia-Pacific region. Putin made the remark at his residence outside Moscow during his talks with Central Military Commissioner's Vice Chair, General Zhang Yuzia. Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu also took part in the meeting held on Wednesday. Putin said Russia and China's cooperation in the military and military technical sphere are becoming a matter of no small importance. He added their work in the high-tech sphere comes first in the military technical cooperation. He said the United States is increasingly dragging all the alliance countries into creating a tense situation in the Asia-Pacific region and trying to establish new military political alliances there. Back to the headlines of the world news. Hezbollah warns of regional war if Gaza bombing goes on. Australia indefinite detention unlawful, the High Court rules. And Putin holds talks with China's top uniformed officer. That concludes this bulletin of world news.
Development news.
The U.S. International Development Finance Corporation yesterday committed over $553 million to support the development of a deep-water shipping container terminal in the Colombo port that will provide critical infrastructure for the South Asian region. The new terminal reflects the DFC's commitment to financing high-quality infrastructure that could support its partners' development needs and invest in local communities and is respectful of local financial conditions. That came to you in development news.
Moving on with sports news.
The ICC World Cup match between Sri Lanka and New Zealand will be played in Bengaluru today. The match is scheduled to commence at 2:15 today. And on to soccer news. Manchester United's faltering season suffered another significant blow as Marcus Rashford's red card contributed to a dramatic qualification-damaging Champions League defeat by FC Copenhagen. In a wild and wonderful contest to the Danish capital, United showed guile and grit for periods and twice looked to have claimed a crucial win before succumbing late onto a goal from the 17-year-old substitute Rooney Badji. They were cruising midway through the first half thanks to Rasmus Højlund's double against his hometown club, both close-range finishers from a striker knowing exactly where he needed to be and when. That's sports news. Business news up next.
Go ekak thiyana youth eකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු වීන හැබැයි කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all-new NSB Ithru Mithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Business news. Sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Poor weather around the world is likely to cause global wine production to drop a six-decade low this year. The International Organization of Wine and Wine says that wine production around the world is likely to about 7% lower in 2023 than last year. Such a yield would be the worst since 1961. The OIV attributes the low levels of production to bad weather, including frost, heavy rainfall and drought. That's business news, economic news to follow.
Business news. Sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Go ekak thiyana youth එකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු වීන හැබැයි කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all-new NSB Ithru Mithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
On to economic news, Sri Lanka's official gross foreign reserve assets have increased to $3,562 million at the end of October. The Central Bank of Sri Lanka said it is an increase of 0.6% from September to October. The Central Bank noted that the figure includes a swap facility for the People's Bank of China, equivalent to around $1.3 billion, which is subject to conditionalities on usability. Sri Lanka's gross foreign reserves were at $3.8 billion at the end of August. That's economic news.
Weather report.
Showers or thundershowers will occur at several places in most provinces of the island after 1 p.m. Fairly heavy showers above 75 millimeters are likely at some places in the western, central, Sabragamo and Uva provinces. Showers may occur in the northern province and in the Trincomalee district during the morning too. Misty conditions can be expected at some places in the western, Sabragamo, central and Uva provinces during the morning. To conclude this bulletin of news, a recap of the headlines. More than 14,000 people belonging to 3,935 families in 10 districts affected due to the adverse weather conditions. The Postal Service declared an essential service. A joint proposal regarding the removal of office bearers of Sri Lanka cricket is set to be debated in Parliament today. The USDFC commits $500 million to port infrastructure in Colombo. 6 renewable energy projects to add over 1,000 megawatts to the national grid in the next 3 years. Hezbollah warns of regional war if Gaza bombing goes on. And the ICC World Cup match between Sri Lanka and New Zealand will be played in Bengaluru today. With that, we conclude this morning's news broadcast. And now it's back to your hostess, Geetanjali, to keep you entertained this Thursday morning.